All right, we're 5 minutes away from the August CPI report. Economists expecting month-over-month prices rising 0.2%, 2.6% year over year. Let's bring in Heritage Foundation public finance economist Antoni. Good morning to you. And what are you expecting from this data? Will this be market moving? It seems that the most investors have moved away from inflation. They're really focused on the job market. We will get some wage data, we should say here.
Cheryl, I think that's right. I think we essentially have a situation where markets are moving away from the inflation data. They're getting hyper-focused on the labor market data, and for good reason. They are finally catching up to the fact that BLS has been grossly overstating a lot of these statistics, like the number of jobs added, like job openings, for example. And we are seeing situations where, through revisions, it turns out the economy, specifically the labor market, is nowhere near as robust as we thought it was.
Yeah, David Asman's on set with me.
you know, it is fascinating when you look at these revisions and then peer more deeply into the jobs reports themselves, that foreign-born American citizens have basically been flat or losing jobs, whereas the reason why we've had an increase in the job numbers is primarily those born outside the United States. In fact, as you can see, it's almost an equal number. 1.2 million born in U.S. have lost jobs. 1.27 million born outside U.S. have gained jobs. So that figure is an interesting one that voters should think about.
David, you're absolutely right here. And one of the important things to realize is not only are we essentially just swapping out native-born American workers for foreign-born workers, but we're also just swapping out full-time jobs for part-time ones. This is one of the reasons why, for example, we continue to see payrolls going up. As Americans lose their full-time jobs and have to replace them with multiple part-time ones, it doesn't matter that they're getting essentially a lower quality job, one that doesn't have benefits, for example, that they are getting multiple jobs that is driving up the number of payrolls. And so even though people are technically worse off, you are getting a technically better statistic.
You know, Adam Johnson, we've been talking about this inflation report, and again, consumer prices do matter to the average American.
Sure.
Not a lot of conversation about that last night, but the average American has been still struggling under these high grocery prices, which we have seen jump up in the last 3.5 years.
Well, fortunately, oil has come down, and that's given us a good deal of relief. In fact, if you look at CPI, the headline number of 2.5%, that's very different. That's what we're hopefully going to get in about another 3 minutes. That's very different from the number that excludes food and energy, which is a lot higher. In fact, it's up in the 3s. So, yeah, it's still hard for average Americans to go out and just do stuff like buy groceries. God forbid you even want to have some fun and take the kids out.
And any upside surprise, EJ, in this report could again be a market mover. We are looking at futures down right now for other reasons, but CPI could indeed turn the market around again.
Well, I think at this point, regardless of how the market reacts to it, I think the Fed already has their course set. I think there's no way they get away from rate cuts at this point. They are just too politically motivated. We like to think that they are politically independent and data dependent. Unfortunately, they have proven themselves to be neither. I do want to say, though, regarding oil, yes, it's great that oil prices have come down. It's good for the American consumer, but we would like to see oil prices coming down because of an increase in supply. Unfortunately, what we're seeing when we look at commodity markets is they are really pricing in a hard landing today, probably to the greatest extent since the global financial crisis. So as much as we get a lot of talk from Powell and company and from Janet Yellen and other sycophants in this administration about that mythical soft landing that the Fed has never been able to pull off in their 100-plus-year history, the markets just aren't pricing it in at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point, David. And also pivoting back to the debate last night, certainly the issue of fracking and domestic energy production was brought up multiple times, whether or not we got clear guidance on that.
Of course, the first 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration differ dramatically from the second 2 years in that At first, oil prices just went sky high because the first thing that Biden-Harris administration did was turn off the pipelines. Then they realized that that was causing the spike in inflation. Then they began to release the spigots a little more. And as Adam pointed out, we're going to see the CPI, which does include energy costs. I believe if it comes down, it's going to be because of those energy costs.
Yeah,
that's a
certainly.
large
Adam,
part of
go
it.
ahead.
Yeah, that's certainly a large part of it. Curiously, I will actually push back a little bit, EJ, on the notion of supply versus demand. The U.S. is pumping the most ever. Russia's bringing their barrels to market. So is Iran. Ditto some of the other countries that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like Venezuela. And OPEC's even let up on its curb. So I think actually the world is reasonably well supplied with oil, which should give us some comfort that it's not a demand shock.
EJ, we're also looking for earnings data within this report. Oh, so, hold on, EJ. Let's go to Lauren Simonetti. She's got the numbers for us.
Yeah.